Hello and welcome to the You Are the Program podcast, presented by Nudge Printing. I said it couldn't get worse, and I don't think it did, but from a painful, sad, depressing state of things, it got a little bit worse because I didn't think I would be as in as I was kind of as the second half had gone through. So let's talk about it. We got more things to talk about now. Brian Lewerke, Tyler Higbee, Dante Rosano. Michigan State loses in overtime 20-23 to Minnesota in a game that was blah for a lot of the first half. And then the second half, it was an unrecognizable team. Offensively, defensively, we hadn't seen a game or a half put together like that. And it started to enter my mind of there's some hypotheticals that went into there. But big story of the day, Alessio, I'm not going to try and say his Milijovejic, something like that.
Was perfect.
That's close.
Hey, that was spot on.
You know, I just woke up from a nap and I could do that. Brian, I don't know if you could do that.
This is painful because he may be our starting quarterback for the rest of the season, and I'm going to have to think so hard every time I say his name. But going off that point, Dante, Tyler, are you reaching to say something? You want to make fun of me?
No, you got it.
All right. Alessio Milijovejic. See, I can't even get it right the first time.
That was a brutal attempt.
Alessio Milijovejic.
Chips Ahoyevich.
I'm just going to call him Alessio. I'm calling him Alessio for the rest of the time. He showed some promise, obviously kept us in the game and kind of gave us a spark. And like you said, Dante, this is almost worse than like getting blown out because we were invested. In the second half, we were very invested. Obviously went to overtime, had, a almost game-winning drive. So, I mean, and to have it end like that is obviously kind of heartbreaking, but eventually we'll get a Big Ten win, I think. And it was a very close chance on Saturday, but eventually we'll get one.
That's a hell of a sentence. Eventually we'll get a Big Ten win.
Yeah.
Dark days in Michigan State football when we're saying stuff like that. I mean, it was exciting to see what Chips Ahoyevich was able to do in the game. I know it was a shock to me. It was a shock to both of y'all, I think, to see the announcement before game time, to see that he was starting. I know, Dante, you mentioned that you saw some reports that he might get some run, get some legit playing time in the game, but I don't think any of us expected him to start this game with 4 games left in the season. I guess it shouldn't be a surprise, but maybe after the bye week, that's something that you do. I don't know. I mean, that's just it was a surprise. All I'm saying. But yeah, the second half, this team, I think you tweeted it. It was unrecognizable. It was from team 1 to team 2. It's just not the same team, and that's part of the inconsistency we've talked about with this team under Jonathan Smith through a year and 3 quarters.
So let's try and separate a couple of these things. Let's start with the Alessio. Gosh, this is going to be a brutal couple weeks here. Let's start with him and the decision, and then let's talk offense and defense as a whole, because I think there's a lot of interesting things that came out of this game, honestly, because of the switch. But him in general, when the announcement was made, I feel like the three of us were kind of like, I guess at this point we were texting about it. Yeah, let's just see what it is. But it was interesting because I think the entire season, or the entire time that Jonathan Smith and Aiden Chiles have been here, we've kind of on this podcast as a podcast that prides themselves on accountability, have deflected any type of quarterback controversy question. And I think even if we had talked about this last week, if we had said midweek, hey, would you guys be surprised if Alessio had started the game? I think we all still would have been very surprised, as we were. But I just think that kind of goes to show, and I got to give Jonathan Smith credit. Now, there's going to be a lot of things that we don't give him credit for in this game, but I think I got to give him credit for kind of going this route, because let's start with the Chiles side of it. Chiles was a very highly rated recruit. committed to Jonathan Smith. When Jonathan Smith got this job, he came right over with him, and he's kind of been his guy. And so for him to kind of look at it and say, hey, let's make this switch, let's make this change because X, Y, and Z aren't going right on offense, and Alessio we think he can change that. I have to give him credit for pulling the trigger on that, and it looks like a great move. The offense in general, and he played a very efficient game. He looked like he knew what was going on in terms of the defensive coverages. The checks, I mean, I still think the checks are kind of more so controlled by the coach and the installation of the offense. So I don't know how much of that's Chiles versus Alessio, but in terms of when he got to the top of his drop, and we've talked about this a lot with Aiden Chiles, Alessio looked like he knew where he was going to, or at least wanted to go with the ball based on what he was seeing pre-snap. And it was night and day difference. There was at least 5 to 10 throws that you could tell when he got to a play action, he's got his back turned back to looking at the receivers. He knew where he was going with that ball. And that was the biggest thing. The timing of the offense in the passing game, at least, just seemed a lot better.
Yeah. And quick question, was Alessio, was he a Tucker recruit or was he a Jonathan Smith recruit? I would imagine. He was
a Jonathan Smith.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, like Dante, to your point, I think when a guy like Chiles has been playing in an offense, and obviously I kind of speak from experience because I had some seasons where I didn't play great, and Rocky came in and played for me my junior and senior year, and he ended up playing pretty well when he came in too. But from Chiles' perspective, like you run the same plays throughout the season, and you do those play action passes, and you come up looking for a guy, and he's not there. And so you quickly go off into your next read. When you've been doing that so many times throughout the game, you kind of expect a guy to not be there and not be open when you kind of whip your head around and see him, that you come off him too quickly and you end up scrambling around, throwing a check down or something, and you kind of get in your own head. And I feel like Alessio and it's his first like true game experience, starting a game and having a whole game to himself. So he's just kind of letting it rip, and he's not thinking that in week 3. This guy wasn't open. He's expecting everyone to be where they're supposed to be. He's thinking freely and just throwing the ball. And I do agree with you. I think his overall vision of the defense seemed a little better than what Chiles had, and he had a better plan with the football when he was back there. Obviously, he got sacked a decent amount of times. I think we had 5 or 6 in the first half, and I think they ended with maybe like 7 or 8.
They ended with 7. So
7.
It was 6. It was 6 in the first half, and then they had 1 in the entire second half.
Yeah, so it was looking rough, but I mean, he did a great job, I think, of at least trying to get rid of the football. Obviously the sacks aren't all on the quarterback; they're not all on the O-line, but overall, I think Alessio played pretty well.
Let me ask y'all this. If I were to tell you before the game that Minnesota would have right at 300 yards total offense and Michigan State would have over 400 yards, almost 500 yards of total offense, would you like our chances of winning that game?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
yes,
me too. Me too. And I was looking at some of the stats, and you just mentioned the sacks. That's what I was going to bring up. Like I'm totally with you. And then you throw in the caveat of giving up 6 sacks and a half. I mean, that you can't you can't function as an offense when you give up 6 sacks. It's impossible. I don't care who your quarterback is. I don't care who your skill guys are. Your quarterback's getting sacked 6 times. It's inexcusable. I mean, it's something has to change. And I mean, it changed in the second half. You only gave up 1. Cool. You still gave up 7 sacks in the game. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's also our first time throwing for over 300 yards in a game this year, which is shocking.
Yeah, since the Maryland game last year, I believe.
Yeah.
Which was earlier in the year. Another point on Alessio that I think this is, Brian, you had touched on it a little bit from the Chiles. I don't want to say struggle spreading the ball around, but to your point with the offense and kind of who he knows that he's looking for a lot of the time, it's that progression thing. And that's what we had talked about coming into the year of that development and saying, hey, you have another year in the system. You kind of know what your first, second, third check down reads are in the offense. But it still seemed like a lot of the time, and most notably, I would say Jack Velling has probably been a big casualty of this when you have a Nick Marsh, you have an Amari Kelly. Granted, the passing offense has just not been good at all. And there's a lot of blame to go around with that. I don't think it's only on Aiden Chiles and Alessio coming in and having a good game. We'll see how that plays out the rest of the season. But one of the things I noticed was even just spreading the ball around. I mean, there were six different guys that had a catch. Rodney Bullard, who hasn't done much this year. I mean, he looked like an explosive part of our offense. He had 4 catches for 102 yards. He had the long 71 yarder, made a great catch, but that's also a throw that, like, I don't know if Chiles is making that throw when he just sees one-on-one coverage, getting someone bearing down on him and kind of throws and trusts his guy to make a one-on-one play. Amari Kelly, 8 catches, 94 yards. Nick Marsh had 4 for 75. Velling had 2 catches for 28, but it felt like it was more in rhythm of the offense. And it's kind of gotten me to wonder, let's talk about the offense in general now, is with all of the struggles that we've had, I mean, yes, it's one game, so let's see how it continues to roll with Alessio as we go through here. He's going to have a bye week, and then he's going to have 3 games to come out of that. But in general with the offense, it just seemed like it's a better fit for this offense because you have a quarterback that's reading a lot more from a pro style, and he kind of knows what he's going to get. But, the rushing game eventually started to break open in the second half there as well once the protection shored up. So offensively, it's kind of opened me up towards, once I finally was watching the game in that second half, where I'm kind of intrigued to see where it goes and if it continues to be Jonathan Smith's team. And this is where it's really unfortunate the way that we lost the game, because again, holding everything neutral, this is not a loss that I think is damning on the Jonathan Smith tenure. But now in all these games, when you're on a 5-game losing streak and now a 6-game losing streak, all of these games are amplified because he's on the hot seat, because everyone's calling for him, and all decisions are looked at under a microscope, that, you have issues. And so let's talk a bit about the offensive issues in the red zone, because Tyler, you talked about the yardage differential between us and Minnesota. We did anything we wanted in that second half offensively, scored 20 points, 17 of which came in the second half. Let me see here. How many drives did we have in the second half that didn't end up in points? So let's see. Third quarter. So touchdown, we had a touchdown, punt, field goal, missed field goal. So out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drives, only one of them ended in no point, or 2 of them ended in no points, and one of those was when we missed the 24-yard field goal. And even on that drive, we still moved it for 7 plays, 40 yards. The one punt that we had, it just looked like a totally different offense. Let's talk about the missed field goal possession, though, because that was the biggest change in the game. You got 1st and goal at the 4. That's where I'd throw a decent amount of criticism towards Jonathan Smith and Brian Lindgren.
Yeah, I didn't love the play calling down there. I think there's, Alicio's throwing the ball well. I don't even think we gave him an opportunity to throw on that drive. I know he ran the ball on 2nd down and got popped pretty hard, and then they run like the QB power to the short side of the field on a 3rd and 4, and after a quarterback just gets hit like that in his first game starting, it's not going to feel good. And then the fact that you want to run him again when you have better, he's not the biggest guy in the world, so you have better running options. And then the second part of that, when you're running again to the short side of the field, you're going to stay on that right hash, and it's going to make a chip shot field goal. It makes it even harder because you're going at such a tight angle to the field goal post. It's almost harder to kick those than kick like a 40-yarder that's on the same hash, just because it's so tight and you have to angle the field goal like that. So I wasn't a huge fan of that, that play call. And I think that obviously played a big part in why we weren't able to score down the red zone. And obviously you need to be able to score down the red zone if you want to win these type of games against a team that is good, but like a team that's definitely beatable in a Big Ten game that you should win.
Yeah, I've voiced my displeasure throughout the season so far with some of the play calling, and it definitely didn't change with this possession in the red zone. And earlier in the game too, it was a 3rd or 4th and 1, and you run a toss. I've talked about that before. Like, you have to have so much go right when you run a toss. And if one guy misses a block, one guy shoots a gap, like, it gets blown up. And it, like, to get short yardage running that play, it's And this team has shown they're not good at that type of play. Like, to call that play in that instance kind of blew my mind, because it's like, we've seen it before not work. Why are we trying that again? And then you get down in the red zone, and yeah, people want to talk about the missed field goal. Yes, you expect to make that field goal probably 99 out of 100 times, if not 100 out of 100 times, from 24 yards. Even though the angle is tougher, 24-yard field goal you expect to make 99% of the time. But you don't even get in that position if you're able to punch it in and execute on first, second, and third down. It comes down to play calling, comes down to execution. Like you said, Brian, Alessio was throwing the ball well. I would have liked to see him have the opportunity to throw the ball down there. But it comes down to play calling and execution. And it's not a whole lot to execute when you're not really giving yourself a chance.
Additionally, with that look too, is they were so blatantly in cover zero.
Yeah.
On that play. It's not like they were lined up and it was, maybe Alessio could have checked out of it, but you go to timeout and they'd kind of shown that look. That's where, to your point, you kind of got to trust him. And if you want him to go make a play, go make a play. He's not, he made a couple plays with his feet. He scrambled around. He had a first down, I believe. I think it was on that same drive where it was 3rd and 6 and he evaded some pressure and dove for the first down. Stuff that you just kind of love to see out of your quarterback. And, he's not known for his legs, but he certainly has that ability. And then having the wherewithal to make that play of escape the pocket, dive for the first down, show he's tough. And the biggest thing that I would say about him is he's clearly a gamer. Like, he knows what he's doing. This isn't a bad Minnesota defense either that he kind of was efficient and ripped it up against and had over 300 yards. And so that, to me, has made me think a little bit more about the offense in general and what the struggles have been. And, I want to flip this discussion towards Aiden Chiles, because, I think there's a world and both things can be true here. I think Aiden Chiles, and that's what makes it all the more frustrating, has about all the talent in the world. And we've continued to say that. But when you have these 20 games and it's seemed to get worse and regress over the past couple weeks or months that we've had this season of decision-making, lack of accuracy with his throws, lack of keeping the offense on schedule. It just seems like this is an offense that was, I don't want to say tailored to a quarterback like Alessio, but it's just made the offense a little bit more difficult than what I feel like it should be. And so I feel like that truly played out over the span of this game. Again, we will see how it works over the next 4 weeks, but I gave Jonathan Smith credit for making the move. And I kind of give Aiden Chiles credit, being a captain, having to take a seat and watch him play well. By all reports, it seems like he handled the decision very well, and he's been very supportive, and they're very close. So I would hope that continues. And, right, wrong, or indifferent, if Jonathan Smith does come back for a 3rd year, I would not expect Aiden Chiles to be back for a 3rd year at Michigan State. And so, that's kind of, it's a big change. And that's why I give the coaching staff credit to make that kind of move, knowing what it probably means. And especially with the performance that Alessio had gave, I think we now know what it means. But we'll see how it plays out over the next bye week and the rest of the season offensively.
Here's another question for y'all, real quick. I actually had a couple people text me that aren't Michigan State fans. I mean, they keep up with college football, so they're familiar with Chiles. They're familiar with the program. They asked me, do I think that move by Smith was to save his own ass more than the product on the field that Chiles has put out? What do you guys think? Do you think it was a little bit of both, or do you think it was more really just because kind of see what we got in Alessio, because Chiles really hasn't been getting it done?
I don't think it was a selfish move by Jonathan Smith in any way, shape, or form to bench him.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it's just kind of giving a different guy an opportunity. And I think the one thing I need to see is if, Alessio had one good game, can he do it again against a Penn State defense in a couple weeks that is still pretty good, even though their team isn't that good. So that would be my biggest thing that I want to see. And if they do start him again in 2 weeks, I think you're right, Dante. I don't know if we'll ever see Aiden Chiles in a Michigan State uniform again.
Yeah, I don't like. I get the
writing on the wall with that. If Alessio goes out, and I mean, even if he plays mediocre the next few games, But I mean, the offense is still able to move the ball and put up some points. Like I think we've seen the end of the Aiden Chiles experiment at Michigan State.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I honestly would not be stunned if he transfers somewhere and just balls out.
Well.
I don't. The thing is, I just don't know how much of a fit scheme and style it is for him. I think he's probably a lot better suited for offenses that, are more of the spread it out, utilize his legs a lot more. I mean, that's been one of our biggest frustrations is letting him use his legs. And there's a lot that goes into this offense and a pro style offense where there's a lot pre-snap that you have to put into there. And then there's also a lot of times in the play where, we run a lot of play action, right? And so how many times when he's getting to the top of his drop, when he's going under center and he's play action, then he gets to the top of it, has to make his reads. And then he kind of gets to that point where he's like, all right, now I have to take off. Like, I feel like that's been a gradual decrease. Brian, we talked a lot about this preseason as far as like going from 17 to 18 to 19, you had a really good year in 17 throwing and running the ball. But then you had even talked about how as you got to 18 and 19, you really wanted to develop and as a passer and not think so much about, running the ball or trying to make that decision to where you're always looking downfield with your eyes and not utilizing your legs as much. And I just wonder how much of this offense that goes into it in a pro style scheme versus a spread it out. And you kind of have the ball, you're not taking as much of a drop. There's one or two reads and go. I really wonder how much that would do for kind of his mental and clearing some things up.
Yeah, I think this offense is designed for a guy that plays within the offense and plays on time and on schedule with going 1, 2, 3 on your reads, and then just checking down. So I think it could just be a situation where Chiles isn't the greatest scheme fit. Obviously, he's a fantastic athlete and can make all the plays. And maybe he focused on trying to throw the ball downfield a little more this year and kind of got away from his feet. But I do agree. I think Alessio is a little better at working inside the scheme of the offense.
And all that to say as well, like this isn't us saying we just completely missed any of the Aiden Chiles stuff. Like he has not been dealt a full deck of cards in terms of, the receivers around him. We've always thought, and I still do think that this is one of the best receiving, at least talent in the Big Ten. But when you don't have the offensive line as well, that's where some of, Brian, you're talking about that week over week knowledge of the playbook or, who you're throwing to or what you're looking at. That's also another thing of he's dealt with this offensive line and the issues that they've had throughout this year and the prior year. So, having a new person in that to give it a different look and come at it from a different angle, I think is a good thing for multiple reasons. But, I wouldn't blame all this to say, I wouldn't say that this is all an Aiden Chiles problem. It's been imperfect around him. So offensive line wise, Tyler, do you have anything or you're saying something?
Well, I was going to ask one more question. I mean, we've seen a little bit of Rodney Bullard this year, but how fast do you think his 40 is? Or do you guys know? Has that number been out there? Because he looked fast on that play.
They said he was far and away the fastest guy on the team. Like he's probably a 4.4 at least.
I mean, he looks like a 4.4 with pads on. Like I know his defender fell down, but like nobody came into the screen while he was running. He was running away from guys, but I was like, whoa, that's some real speed right there.
Yeah, he's been a guy that I've looked at through this offense in the offseason of everyone was talking about Amari Kelly and Christian McCray, but there was some rumblings of, hey, if this guy is your fourth receiver in the order here that's getting the ball, and that's what makes it even more frustrating with the pass game is like there is a lot of talent here. Rodney Bullard hasn't done much all year. Then he pops off for 100 yards in this game. Like it's just that's where a lot of the frustrations come from for me. Before we go to the defense, I did want to talk about, I know people get a little bit upset when we talk about officiating. I don't know how you don't talk about it in this game. What made this game so hard to kind of accept was the fact that the third down flag was picked up 30 seconds after the call was made, and they already marked off I think they had already marked off the penalty. Jonathan Smith had said that the final official had came in late and seen it from a different vantage point. I just have never, well, I've seen it once, and it was the Detroit Lions Dallas playoff game from like 2012. I haven't seen it in the college game, and I don't understand how it gets picked up. Like, how many times do you think that the officials go to a huddle and say, hey, we really need to pick that one up, when, okay, one guy's opinion of he had a clear view at it and it wasn't pass interference. By the way, there's a still shot where he's breaking into the corner and he has a hold of his jersey. It's not like there was no contact there. So the fact that had kind of happened and came to the game, all that to say, again, if someone's going to get upset about us for complaining about officiating, they should not have been in that position. They should not have been in overtime. The defense had a chance to end the game. If they made the kick, that was a 20-yarder. That could have ended the game. It shouldn't have been in that situation. And so that's why I wanted to kind of bury this late in it. But I had never seen that late of a flag pickup after the ball was already marked off.
Yeah, my only thing with that is I wouldn't have been upset if they didn't call it at all. Like I think it could have been called. But if they hadn't called it at all, I would have been like, all right, maybe it's just like a call we didn't get. But the fact that they called it and then marked the ball at like the 4-yard line and then blew the whistle, like we were, I think, at least on the ball or maybe breaking the huddle to go to the ball, and then they all blow the whistle and are like, oh, after review or after further discussion, it's not a penalty. I'm like, what? You can't talk about it for that long after. I mean, if it's not a penalty, it's not a penalty, and you would have discussed it right then and there. But I don't know. And again, like, should we even be in that position that we have to do that? I don't know, but whatever. That's all I got on that.
Old baby PJ got his way. He whined just long enough. The refs were like, you know what? Hand up. You should pick that flag.
I don't know if he's got that much pull to where the official's like, PJ is really in our ear right now. But that, and then on top of that, we'll talk about the defense here, but how they don't call the touchdown short too. I get that the ref was right in the way on the down the line look, but still there was enough camera angles that I think you could just pair them together. And at least the TV copy never showed that. Now, if the officials had a side-by-side cut look that said, hey, this is when he stepped out and the ball was across the plane, I get that, but we never saw it on the TV copy. I don't think I've seen it explained. I don't know how, because it was very clearly short and it looked like his foot was sitting out of bounds on that. It's another one that
Yeah, I thought it was pretty close. That, I mean, it was like inches in between. Like that could have been called too. Like if you went to review, mm-hmm. I don't know if they even looked at it or not, but I thought it was very, very close that they could have at least taken a look.
They looked, okay. But again, it's one of those things where Darius Snow's got a chance to bring him down 7 yards in the backfield and get stiff armed into oblivion. So
and Drake Lindsey's not like a mobile guy either. Like he's
no.
He has like negative 300 yards rushing on the year, all from sack yardage.
All you have to do in that scenario is, I get you want to dive and you want to lunge. All you have to try and do is slow him up for another 2 seconds, whether or not you make the tackle, because you got people coming. And again, it was that close and he got stiff armed clean and got away from it. But all you have to do in that scenario is trying to corral him. So I loved the play call out of Minnesota. I gave him a lot of respect for calling that the naked boot there just with the quarterback. But 2 very frustrating things in terms of the officiating. Again, I want to say they shouldn't have been in that position. They had their own chances to win that game. They could have gotten off the field. You score the touchdown to go ahead. And what do you do right after? Kick it out of bounds and then immediately have a face mask penalty. And so Minnesota is essentially starting that drive from Michigan State's 45.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as we've talked about with this game, it's been, and this season has been unbelievably frustrating. But what has not been frustrating for us is our terrific sponsors, presenting sponsor over at Nudge Printing. If you are looking for the perfect Spartan gear, you need to check out Nudge Printing. a Spartan-owned company. They make elite Michigan State gear. Brian's wearing the Gruff Sparty hat that we all hold near and dear. The Kelly Green Gruff Sparty. It's not just
they restocked the Sparty golfing hat today. I'm gonna have to pick that one up.
Yeah, well, you get the lucky benefit of being in year-round golf season, to where the golf gear is being stored away right now for us folks north of Houston there. But as actual alumni, Nudge knows what it means to bleed green. Everything is printed here in mid-Michigan, so when you wear their gear, you are supporting local craftsmanship with a true Spartan spirit. It's getting tough right now to wear the Spartan gear, but I still wear any of my hats, my shirts. I know Brian, you guys both have the bone quarter zip, the Gruff Sparty quarter zip. It's part of the normal rotation for you guys. I'm probably about to buy that, and it'll be the part of the normal rotation for me, because going in the office, I need quarter zips now. It's that time of year. So shout out to Nudge, shout out to Gabe. Let's talk about the defensive side of the ball here quickly, because a lot has been made recently of the Joe Rossi on the sidelines. A lot of people have started to come over towards, hey, maybe this Joe Rossi guy's not so bad. You know, he's showing a lot of heart. He's showing a lot of fight. I think it's something that's been galvanizing a little bit for that defense in order to see that passion on the sidelines. And you know, I'd love to see the camera cuts over to him when there's a big stop, big play, good or bad, and he's kind of over there getting fired up. It was on the pass interference in overtime that he almost sprinted down into the red zone or into the end zone to give those officials a piece of his mind. I mean, there was.
It's bad when the extra official that's on the sideline has to come and like play mitigator.
They definitely could have called a penalty on that.
Yeah,
as a non-head coach to come all the way down there, but
yeah, but this defense has played differently. Like I tweeted out during the game, there was things that looked different about that game, and that second half was kind of unrecognizable. Part of that was the defense. I mean, they didn't get a ton of pressure on Drake Lindsay. I think we got I know at least one sack. I believe Jalen Thompson. Yeah, I believe it was Jalen Thompson that got that sack. It
was Isaac Smith.
No, Isaac Smith. Smith. But outside of that, like Jordan Hall and Nakai Martinez, those guys were flying around, specifically Jordan Hall. That entire second half, I felt like anything over the middle, he was making a play on it. He had a forced fumble that, talk about also unlucky bounces. He stripped it away clean, and it just hit his arm when it was coming back through, or else that would have been our ball right there. And so I felt like he played an unbelievable game. Defensively, you know, they gave up a big run in the first half. Of course, it was to hang on, where's it at? Fame Ijaboy, I believe. Yeah, I tried to spell his name. I tried. He had the big run in the first half, but outside of that, I mean, in the second half, Minnesota didn't get a ton going, and I give a lot of credit to this defense. Again, Minnesota did not score in the second half until the last drive of the game, which again, you have a chance to win and end that game, not even be in this position with overtime. We get in our own way. They start on our side of the field, but defensively, I feel like this team is starting to shift a little bit defensively, even with all the injuries that we have. I just thought it was an inspired effort. And, if you want to complain about losing the game, yes, I'm with you. If you want to complain about the coaching, play calling towards the end and towards the red zone, yes. But it's not like, we thought the UCLA team or the UCLA game might spiral into a team that looks like it's quit. Truly, like the quit and care factor or anything you want to say has not been part of this team's DNA since the UCLA game. You have an Indiana team that's just better than you. You have a Michigan game where I feel like you got in your own way a lot of the time, but it has not been for a lack of effort from the team, which at this point it might be a little bit too late.
Yeah, and when you look at it statistically, you're holding Drake Lindsay to 197 passing yards, hold Fame Ijaboy to 108 rushing yards. I think it was a great defensive effort, and like you mentioned about Jordan Hall with that little peanut punch he had, I thought that was a fantastic play. He's kind of fighting with the guy as the tight end made the catch and kind of fighting with him, punched the ball out. And unlucky bounce to not be able to get that ball there. But I was very impressed with Joe Rossi and kind of the energy he's showing on the sidelines is, I think, what this team needs. And I'm glad that he's kind of down there on the field and pumping the guys up and, kind of laying his body up, not his body, but you can kind of, showing some emotion for his players on the sidelines. I think that's awesome. And I didn't realize that he was or maybe I just forgot that he was the DC at Minnesota from like 18 to 23 or something like that. So it's probably a little bit of a revenge game for him. And he wanted to kind of stick it to PJ Fleck and show out on defense. And I think they did a great job. And it's one of those games where you kind of hold them the entire game, and then you got to have that last drive where you got to hold them to no points, and obviously unable to do that. But I thought it was a great performance by Rossi and the entire defense.
Definitely a big one for him. One that he wanted to get. One that, they showed some of the clips from before the game, him saying hi to a bunch of people that I'm sure he's close with back at Minnesota, but definitely one that he wishes that Michigan State could have pulled out because it was probably meant a little extra for him. But there's another game this defense played good enough for this team to win. Yes, there, like you said, Brian, the drive at the end of the game you'd like to have back, but you got to kind of tip your cap too at some point. Like, yeah, Drake Lindsey didn't throw for a ton of yards, but he made some big time throws on that drive. And sometimes you got to just tip your cap.
He certainly did.
Yeah. Like sometimes these guys I've talked about before. These guys play D1 too. Like, they're there for a reason. There's flashes with everybody. So one thing I will say, like Rossi being on the sideline, you guys know I coach football in the fall, and I've talked to our defensive coordinator about it, and he has told me, like, he has the option to go up to the booth, but he likes being on the field too, because he can actually look into the eyes of his players and really see like how they're feeling. He can communicate a lot better than just over the headset and not through another coach or another player. So being on the sideline, I really do think like means a lot, and it matters. Like, he can really like my coach that I coached with, he's like, I can look into the eyes of my guys and like really see how they're feeling, like what's going through their head. So I think it's a big deal, and I don't think it's a coincidence that this defense has played better the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I don't think so at all. And this is I'll go back to my statement. It might be too little too late at this point, because everything now seems heightened from a standpoint of you have to win these games. Like that, people, fans, alumni, whoever, Magic Johnson, I guess, all upset with Michigan State. And obviously we're not in a position to where anyone's happy really at this point. But, if you saw these performances and this team could get confidence, then maybe it'd be a different story. But we've gotten to this point based off of whether it's coaching staff, execution, whatever it is, a lack of that. And I then again go back to, I felt like I said it a lot in the Michigan game, of lack of execution in the most critical moments. We talk about the red zone in the fourth quarter, and then that goes into a field goal that you miss. And then you talk about you score a go-ahead touchdown, you have 2 minutes left, and you kick the ball out of bounds, you get a face mask penalty, all of a sudden they're right there, and you still have a chance to stop them, and you don't. So, like, to me, as fun as it was to watch that football game in the second half, while I could probably also say from our standpoint, like, this is a team and a coaching staff, and like, I think they're trending in the right direction at this point. They've seemed to make some adjustments, but it's still not good enough. And there's enough bad in there that's led up to this point that it makes the decision of, like, for a Jay Batt or whoever is going to make the call on whether Jonathan Smith's going to be the coach next year, is, do you have enough trust that this staff's going to be able to turn it around? And I would say probably for the first time, like this week, making the switch to Alessio. And Tyler, to your point, like, was that a move to save his job? I don't think it was to save his job, but I think they had a better chance to win, arguably, in that game with him, with how he performed. So it's a really interesting standpoint, but I feel like this team is at least trending in a positive direction. You have 3 more games, again, that are probably pretty winnable games, maybe outside of Iowa, but still, it's Iowa. If your offense can play well, I think you can hang. But it might be too little too late, because there's been a lot of sins that have been committed prior to this week that are going to be in the heads and hearts and minds of Michigan State fans and donors and administrators.
Yeah, I mean, putting Alessio in gives him a better chance to win the game, which in turn kind of helps him save his job. So I think it kind of answers itself. But like you said, I think it's a little bit of too little too late. I don't know if there's much else, after another loss that we can, even if we go 3-0 now, I don't know if that's going to do much.
It's just, it really is a shame that you have the UCLA performance and you have the end of the Nebraska game that kind of turned it to where it's at. The culture of this team, this is where I'm kind of at, is the culture of this team is not a winning one, because still, even though I think we played a good game and I could watch this, if this was the effort and this was the execution that came out week in, week out, and you lose the games, that's one thing, but it hasn't been there consistently enough. It feels like it's getting better, but the fact that that's even a question, on top of the fact that when you get in these critical moments and these pivotal moments of games, it was with Michigan, with even UCLA early on in that game, late in the Nebraska game, the USC game, things do not just happen. Like, it's all of these pivotal points in games that have led to this point. Any of the games this year, any of the games last year, they don't go our way. Like, they just don't. And that's not, sometimes it's not your fault, but when things continue to happen against you, I don't know what the discussion then comes to. It's a tough thing, and we'll see how it plays out. But, I really enjoyed watching this team in the second half. That's probably the first time I feel like I've said this in a month and a half.
At least we're not Nebraska and haven't beat a ranked team since 2016.
Ooh. Matt Rule, $15 million.
And now your starting quarterback broke his leg and is out for the season.
Well, he didn't break his leg.
He's broke his fibula.
He did?
Yeah.
Yep.
He's out for the season.
So they taped him back up and had him running around the sidelines, and he had a broken fibula?
I didn't get that one. I
just saw that this evening.
Really?
I saw it on Twitter.
Wow, that's tough.
I don't. Yeah, we can talk about the Big Ten. We're at a good enough point to do that. Anything else Michigan State, Minnesota wise? I think if everyone wants to put a bow on their one big thought from this game, I feel like I just kind of had my spiel. Brian, Tyler, you guys got anything else in terms of kind of your one big takeaway from this game? Closing thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing I can say is that at least this team hasn't given up, and it's even more so an emphasis on how big of an anomaly the UCLA game was and how much we really did give up that game. But it's good to see that guys are still battling, and I think it was a good spark to have Alessio in the game. And if he can do it again, then I'll be convinced. I mean, I think he's a great quarterback, but you got to be able to do it twice. You can't just have one game performance. So that'll be what I'm looking for in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, mine is similar to what you guys had. I'm really hoping that UCLA performance was just an outlier, and for whatever reason, you laid an egg, and whatever that game was, it happened. You toss that one out. You don't ever watch that film again. You burn it. But I'm really hoping that was an outlier, because what we've seen the past couple of weeks, it didn't go the way we wanted it to finish. But you've shown flashes, and it's really just been about the way this team finishes and beating themselves. You're giving your chances to be successful, and in the Minnesota case, to win the game. It's time to finally go do it. So I'd like to see this team to build on that and maybe just finish this year on a good note, building something going into next year.
Yeah, and we'll see if this isn't making Jay Batt's job any easier. If you get blown out in the Michigan game and you show no fight, or you after losing the Michigan game, you come into this game, and if you had gotten blown out and showed no fight, it makes that decision a lot easier. But again, I don't know. I'm at a point where I don't know. I think as a fan, I'd probably like to see a new coach and wouldn't like to give it a chance, because we've seen what 2 years has built to. But again, it's just been 2 years. Alessio has been interesting. If he finishes the season looking good and this offense clicks to the point where it feels like, hey, we kind of feel like we have something on offense, it makes the decision tough. But then again, if you're 3-9, I don't know if any of that really matters. So,
yeah.
Okay. Let's talk around kind of Big Ten games we watched this weekend. You had just talked about the Nebraska USC game. USC, I think, dodged a bullet in that game with Raiola getting hurt. I don't think they were going to win that game if he did not get hurt, which was weird because I felt like for a large majority of that game, USC was the better team, but they just were never executing or scoring points on offense when they needed to, especially I think first half it was 7-6 at some point. And it just felt like USC was the only team doing anything offensively, but still at some point Nebraska was winning that game. Yeah, Matt Rule got a new contract. That's the classic name linked to a job opening, and you're too afraid to lose him. I think the number was 0-8 against top 25 at Nebraska. And then in his career, I believe he is 1-11.
I think he's 2-23.
You might be right. The 0-8 was the one that I remembered for sure. I couldn't remember what the larger statistic was, but I don't know. I don't really get it. From a standpoint of you don't want to lose him, and if you know that he's surely going to take the Penn State job if he doesn't get another contract or doesn't get an extension or more money, then your hand might be forced, I guess. But I just think there's a lot of coaches that are at the level of Matt Rule.
Yeah.
I don't think you're losing a ton by losing him to Penn State.
Average coaches benefit when big coaches get fired, because average to that could be good coaches benefit because they get a little extra money. But I don't know what to think about USC. I think they're good, but they don't seem that they can pull it all together when they need to. They have obviously very good players, but I don't know. I just not sold on them yet.
Well, that's kind of to Dante's point. This would have been a typical game for USC to lose. They're having a good season. They were 6-2 going into that game. It's time to go play a big boy game at Nebraska at night in the Big Ten. It's cold. It's all those things. And I mean, almost in typical USC fashion, in early November, they were going to lose that game. But Raiola getting hurt obviously throws a wrench into that. But I still think they're a good team. I don't know how good they are. I don't think they're as good as what I thought they were after they beat Michigan State the way they did earlier in the season. But I think they're still decent.
Yeah, agreed. Any other games in the Big Ten? Indiana absolutely blows the doors off of Maryland, which leads to did you guys read this the same way? I think Loxley's done it at Maryland.
No, I think that was a fake tweet.
Oh, he got ball sacked.
I saw it because it was by a verified account that had 10,000 followers, but it's like a Joker guy.
Yeah.
I was about to send a tweet in our group chat, and then I made sure I did some digging on this guy's account. He's definitely fake, but Purdue went toe-to-toe with Michigan.
Yeah, the Michigan Magic.
Probably should have won that game, to be completely honest with you. But Michigan's running game is disgusting. It is so good. And so annoying.
They have really good running backs, but they've just lost Justice Haynes. I didn't even realize he got hurt. Was that in the Michigan State game that he got hurt?
Yeah, I don't even know if he played this.
No, I'm pretty sure he played. Okay. Maybe he didn't.
No. He rolled out. He rolled out of the tunnel in a boot.
Really?
In the Purdue game. So I don't know if it happened in the Michigan State game because he had the long run right at the end of the game. I can't imagine it happened any point after that. I guess maybe, but that's a big blow for them. But yeah, Marshall, their backup running back, still very good.
Yeah.
Maybe they had a scout team hero trying to make a play during the week.
That's what I'm guessing. That's what I'm guessing. Ohio State rolls over Penn State. Yeah. Yep. That game was very tight, or I don't want to say very tight. It was close for a little bit in the first half, and then Ohio State took care of business there. Julian Sayin feels like he's getting very, very comfortable. Brian, you were on this train early in the year saying he might be the best quarterback in the conference. I don't know if he's better than Mendoza, but he's certainly trending that way. And they've allowed how many points all year? 55 points all year. So,
yeah, I saw that they've allowed, I think, 13 first half points the entire season, and Penn State had 14 in the first half, and then didn't score again, obviously, the rest of the game. But, Ohio State's very, very good. And I think Jeremiah Smith and Cardinal Tate are going to go Cardinal Tate's going to go like first overall in his drafts, and Jeremiah Smith is going to go first overall in his drafts because I don't think
you think he's going first over. Cardinal Tate's going 1 overall.
I think he has the potential to. Yeah.
Wow,
he's very good.
Take. Let's mark that one down.
Unless it's like a quarterback needy draft, he'll be the first receiver taken in his draft.
I was hoping that those words would come out of your mouth. I was hoping that you would say that. All right. Perfect.
I forgot NFL teams need quarterbacks. They suck.
Penn State. Let's just talk about them for 2 seconds. They're going to be 0-6 walking into East Lansing. They played Ohio State this past weekend, obviously. They play Indiana next week.
Oof.
At least I think.
They do. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. They're going to be 0-6 coming into East Lansing, which is insane. Someone's going to get their first Big Ten win. So very interesting there. I mean, I think this is kind of what happens after your head coach leaves. People, and they, whether it's the relationship with the coach or the fact that they kind of know that their season's over and their quarterback got hurt for the year. Very interested to see what they are in 2 weeks, because Ohio State was probably the one game they were going to get up for sure. Indiana might be that same thing. But playing the number 1 and 2 teams in the country back-to-back weeks, then you got to go to East Lansing. When you're 0-6, getting your first Big Ten win, that's one of those pride games, and I'd expect us to try and come out and play hard, no matter who the coach is in that game. So Penn State, very realistic chance to go winless in the conference, and something I did not see coming, or well, I guess nobody saw coming. But how the mighty have fallen.
Around the country, Texas almost blew it versus Vandy.
That would have been fun to see. I would have enjoyed Texas losing that game.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see.
Did you guys see the video of Tennessee's intro, like their walkout?
Oh,
yes,
so good.
That was elite.
Disgusting. I don't know how they did that with the lights in the tee, but however they did that, that was awesome.
That is the one stadium I would say, like, that's my number 1 bucket list to go to is Neyland and go to a Tennessee game.
Yeah,
night game.
Baton Rouge would be cool, but going to Neyland, I think, in Tennessee would be unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think. Did y'all watch that Georgia-Florida game? I thought Florida should have won that game.
Definitely.
I didn't, because I had YouTube TV, so didn't make the switch.
You still haven't?
No, I haven't, because I don't watch. Here's my justification for it. I could have pulled trigger on another streaming service. I don't watch ESPN a ton. Michigan State's never, Big Ten teams aren't playing on ESPN, and NFL's never on ESPN besides Monday night. So once it becomes too much of a burden on me, then I will make the switch to DirecTV. But I didn't feel like going through all the hassle yesterday.
Okay.
All right, let's hit the locks real quick, and then.
Yep. Awful week. Awful week for the locks. I believe we went 0-3. Is that correct? Let me verify.
That is correct.
That is absolutely correct. I'll kick it off. Mine was Cincy plus 10.5, and boy, did they run into a buzzsaw at Utah. I mean, I knew Utah was a good team, but I thought 10.5 was a lot of points.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Utah was like 25-4 at night games at home.
They're a wagon at night. They
are. I had Cal plus 6, which should have at least won.
Disgusting.
And they threw a pick 6 as time expired. So
we'll see that. And we'll see. Was it the Georgia game? We'll see those two on Bad Beats tomorrow with SVP.
Oh
yeah.
That actually saved my ass in our pick'ems because I had Florida plus 7, so that was fantastic.
The Cal one is as disgusting as it gets. I was watching that game, and I just thought the guy was going to go down.
Yeah.
That was disgusting. I also lost, bringing me to, I believe, 5-5 on the year. Illinois, Rutgers over. Illinois did their part. I believe they scored 35 or 38 in that game. And Ethan Kalikmanis, the clubhouse leader in yardage in the Big Ten, did not get it done for me. So 0-3 for your boys this year, which been a little bit of a tough 2 weeks here. Higby falls to 2-8, 5-5, and I'm 5-5, and then Brian
6-2-2.
Yeah, 6-2-2.
You said you'd rather lose than ties, and that's what you did.
I did say that, but
not in that way.
Anything different for me?
Not in that fashion though. That one you'd rather tie. That was brutal.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Okay, let's wrap it here. Michigan State has a bye week coming up, so might get creative. Maybe we might do something this week. I'd like to do another roundtable at some point, but it's just so tough because there's so much up in the air right now that we could speculate all we want. We could try and reach out to some of our friends. We'll try and think of something, but beyond that, they play Penn State the week after. If not anything else, we will talk to you then, but I'm pretty confident we'll at least come out with one show this week to where don't have any Michigan State to talk about, might think of some different ideas to go through. So until then, Michigan State needs to get a win. Go green. We'll talk to you next.